What do you think? What do you think this younger crowd is going to get out of your films? What do you think they're going to?
Well, like Maltese Flamingo was made in 1985-86 season and came out in the fall of 1986, before there was an internet. Okay, and that's a huge thing about our early films. It was pre-internet. So if you wanted to see a ski movie, you went to the Wheeler or wherever in your town and saw Warren Miller. And we never toured like Warren Miller, but we made VHS cassettes. So these little babies got passed around from ski bum to ski bum to skier to skier. And so it was all word of mouth. So we kind of went viral on VHS before viral existed. And, you know, the fact that there was no internet, I think that's pretty amazing because, you know, young people, what are they going to get? Well, first of all, they're going to get a laugh because they're going to see the skinny skis and, you know, like a young Glenn Plake where he's got his junior mohawk. You know, but maybe they'll, you know, notice that the music's pretty advanced for its time. And, you know, at the time, the music I was using in the movies was from Trevor Horn in England, ZTT Records, and this is Act and Propaganda. And this stuff was absolute Euro pop cutting edge. So, especially in Maltese, when we go to Europe, I'm using this European Euro pop, and that gave the movie a unique pop. In Maltese Flamingo, it's Tony Hawk's very first appearance in any movie of any sort on film. The skateboard sequence, and it's not just Tony. We've got Lance Mountain, Christian Hosoi, Steve Caballero. I mean, these guys were. I mean, Tony was 16.
And people don't know where the term Cab 360 comes from, or Cab whatever.
Yeah, from Steve Caballero.
Yeah.
Right? And Tony, and it's funny because Tony was 16 in Maltese Flamingo, and I actually directed his Super Bowl commercial for Disney some 20 years later. Maybe longer. Maybe it was in 2001, so whatever that adds up to. But I knock on Tony's limousine the first morning. You know, it's 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, I don't know if you remember me. And he goes, I totally remember you. And that was part of why I got the gig. Was Tony liked the skate sequence we did because it was his first thing on film. So it was the first time he probably saw himself in slow motion on film. You know, it was 16 millimeter, but it still looked great for the time. So that's new. It's also the very first World Snowboarding Championships are in this movie from Breckenridge, Colorado in 1986. And I mean, I think young people, anybody that is in a half pipe today is going to look at this movie because the half pipe, it looks like somebody's driveway had been plowed up. It's completely uneven.
It looks like shit.
It looks terrible, right? But it was killer for the time, and there were little hits that, you know, Sean Palmer and you know, all those guys were there when they were kids. Sean was 16. You know, Ken Achenbach was there. Just all these people that would become famous. Greg Kelly, and so it's really funny to see the half pipe and then just to hear my narration because I predict that someday there'll be snowboard federations, there'll be rules, there'll be judges, it might even be an Olympic sport, you know. But for right now, it's this raw thing. So that I think that's really cool. So
Yeah, no, that's
for old or young.
Yeah.
And
it's a nostalgic look back. Blizzard of Oz obviously gets all the attention among your films. Do you think there are films that are don't get enough attention because of Blizzard of Oz just dominates everything?
Well, probably. You know, and to me, Blizzard's not my best movie by far. I think Groove Requiem is way better. P-Tex Lies and Duct Tape is way better, and Siberia, which is about our trip going to Russia with Craig Kelly and Scott Schmidt. That's a really good movie. So I progressed so much after Blizzard, but Blizzard was my fifth movie too. People think that's my first movie, but that was fifth movie in 5 years. So, you know, the other movies have really, well, Maltese got noticed. That's the first one that got noticed, and then the next year I tried to do all my own music, and I made Good, the Rad, the Gnarly, which is visually really good, but musically and the narration and the whole concept is pretty bad. But Blizzard, I kind of finally put everything together, you know, in one film. and then we did License to Thrill afterwards. And funnily enough, I don't narrate License to Thrill because I was so embarrassed by my Blizzard of Oz narration, because I'm 26, right? And I'm talking like I know everything, and I don't. I'm a 26-year-old green kid, but I'm talking like, this is extreme skiing, and these are the world's best.
BBC announcer.
Yeah, I'm just full of it. And so, but when I watch Blizzard, you can see why it got popular.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think it's my best movie. I like License to Thrill better. And
So tell me about Snowbird. After Time Waits for Snowman, you got banned from Snowbird.
see, when I read that question, I don't know. As far as I know, we've never been banned from Snowbird.
Oh, okay.
And we didn't even film Maltese Flamingo in Snowbird. I don't think. No, we weren't even there.
This was a question from Jeff. He said, ask him about that. And he said you did makeup interviews with Dick Bass, who owned Snowbird back then, and so you could get back into Snowbird.
No,
I got that wrong.
Because I interviewed Dick Bass. Wait a minute, we did do Snowbird for Blizzard. I did interview Dick Bass for Blizzard, and then there's a brief Snowbird sequence, but it's really good stuff. But we didn't get banned.
Okay. All right.
To my knowledge.
This is why I need to do an interview with the two of you.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Jeff could obviously has more brain cells left than I do at this point. So maybe he remembers something that happened. Because we didn't get banned.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me what else about this little short 1 month, week by week festival. What's so great about it? What do you want to get out of it?
Well, I think it's just these are all really good movies, and they're vintage ski movies from another time. So like talking about Maltese, it was pre-internet, and then with the Groove Requiem and the Key of Ski, that's Seal once told me that he thought that movie broke him in North America.
Really?
And at this point, because I didn't even know him when we did it, because he was a new artist with ZTT Records in London, so I had been working with Trevor for several years. But when I finally met Seal, he said, Greg, I think that because he called his manager, right? Because he didn't even know me, he didn't know about the ski movies, but he had just started snowboarding at Mammoth because he was living in Los Angeles, and all these people kept coming up to him, especially at Mammoth, like everybody. Kept coming up saying, "Oh, I love you in the new Craig Stump movie," and he's like, "Oh yeah, thanks." And finally, he calls his manager, goes, "What bloody ski movie have we done?" And I go, "Oh, it's just this little tiny thing. It's just a friend of Trevor's. It's no big deal at all." He goes, "Well, I think it is a big deal, because every time I go to the ski shop or I go up to Mammoth, everyone is coming up to me telling me about how great this movie is. Can I see it?" Because he hadn't even seen it, and I don't think, I told him, I go, "Henry, you would have broken in North America without me." But now that I think about it, all these years later, I think he's right to a degree that in the affluent ski market, which is at that point, predominantly Caucasian, he became really, really popular because of Groove. And, his record sales ticked up. And it was a great relationship with ZTT Records because they didn't charge me for any of this music, because in America these unknown groups were selling with the ski crowd immediately. And again, it was a more affluent crowd, and the horns were skiers. So it was. What was the question again? Or did I make the question up?
No, it's a perfect what you just said.
Yeah, Groove. So Groove is really good because of skiing. Seal's music, and then also in Groove, it's one of the first Alaska sequences ever done. We've got a sequence with Laird Hamilton on a speedboard off the coast of Maui, where he's, a speedboard's impossible to most people. Windsurfers can't come close to riding one anyway, but they're made to go on flat, speedboards, like Speed Beach and that kind of thing. But Laird Hamilton, he took that board out into the craziest surf, and he's getting huge air. He almost hits the helicopter in this one shot. And again, we're shooting with a helicopter, not a drone. What else is in Groove that's good? It's just a really. Oh well, it's also kind of daring because I used the first Gulf War as the timeline for that movie, which was a very dangerous proposition, and I knew it because I had to stay absolutely apolitical even though I had a political opinion, I couldn't let that be known. So I just used the Gulf War as a timeline. And then we're showing Blizzard of Oz on the 21st, I think. It's the third movie.
Yep.
And it's actually an edition that I did for the 30th anniversary. So there's kind of a prologue, not kind of, there is a prologue and an epilogue. And that's really good. And then we're showing, I've been driving for 3 days. What's the final movie we're doing? Legend of Oz,
Yeah.
Jeez. And Legend is really well produced, and it's the only movie where I'm completely happy with my narration. And an Aspen local, actually, Bob Nunn, was the executive producer. And I had a decent budget on that movie, and it really made a difference. And it's just really well produced. There's nothing in that movie that I don't like,
Yeah.
whereas pretty much every other movie there's stuff I don't like.
Yeah. Yeah, Thomas Pynchon, the great American author, he was asked to do a collection of his stories, and he said he went back and looked at all his previous books. He said none of them were good enough, just this last one. So it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and of course you get better. And I mean, I started out with no experience
Yeah.
in cinematography whatsoever, other than I was playing with cameras when I was a kid. And I had a dark room, and I turned our family, the bathroom in our house, into a dark room. And so I was, into film and into stills, taking pictures and stuff, because our father was always taking 35 millimeter slides. So slideshows were a big part of our family. So I was into photography, but really was inexperienced. I mean, when I first bought a 16 millimeter camera, I didn't know how to load it.
Yeah. I've been there.
So it was all trial and error for both myself and my filming partner, Bruce Benedict.
Yeah.
It was just the two of us shooting all those movies. Even Blizzard, it's just two people shooting it.
And Bruce had a huge impact on you and your films, didn't he?
Yeah, because he was a trained photojournalist from the University of Kansas. So he'd gone to school, photojournalism, right? And so he had a great, he knew all the technical side. And he always said this about me. He goes, "You've got the eye. What you didn't know at first was f-stops and, what film we're going to use is, film speed, f-stops, lenses, all that kind of stuff I didn't know. And since Bruce was, he was already on the masthead of Powder Magazine. So he and Rod Walker, they were, I knew their photos.
Wow.
And fortunately for us, Bruce liked one of the girls on my crew, so he just kept turning up everywhere. And I'm like, oh, there's that great still photographer again. And by the second season, he went with us the whole way, and I started throwing a film camera at him. And of course, he took to that like,
Yeah.
it was just a natural,
Yeah.
right? And but he also had this knack, because of the photojournalism, he had this knack for pulling out the camera and having it rolling before something cool happened.
Yeah.
So many times. Like one of the most famous shots in Blizzard is when Glenn's walking down the street in Chamonix, and this dog's just going crazy, barking at him. And they noticed that, but Bruce was the one that zipped out there, got a camera, and I wasn't even there. And he goes, "You're not gonna believe the shot I got today. This dog was going crazy, barking at Glenn." And it over and over, we do it over and over. The dog was just going berserk. Because Glenn had his hair up, and there's all these swatch pins jingling. So, but no, Bruce was a huge influence, and I just learned so much from him. And I mean, he was the second person I thanked at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Because I probably would have made the ski movies anyway, but they were a lot better with Bruce being involved.
Okay, one last question, unless you got anything else you want to talk. What's your favorite run at Aspen? Or Snowmass?
Well, Highland. I like Highlands.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Can you remember a particular
Well, just
run?
whatever that face is called, though, that bowl, Highlands Bowl.
Highlands Bowl,
Yeah, I mean that's really nice, and
Yeah.
I've hit great powder days at Snowmass, where it's just really nice, and
Are you going to do any skiing while you're here?
hopefully I had ankle replacement surgery,
Oh.
not a fusion, so I have a brand new man-made ankle And
It looks good, by the way.
well, thank you. It looks a lot better than it did,
I can't
and I
see it,
certainly
but it
walk
looks
a
good.
lot better than I did. Well, I couldn't walk without an ACO brace, which, is a strap-on brace that goes a half, all the way up your calf. Because I had no ankle. They couldn't even do a fusion if they wanted to.
Oh, jeez.
So they just went in and cut it all out, put in a new one, and zero weight bearing for the first 2 weeks. And it was in March, and it's still a little tender. I mean, I like just walking down these steps. Just if they're big steps, I have to be careful. But it's way better than it was.